All right, you screwball. Do you feel that? It's a change in the air. This feeling, it's what's left after a tremendous tension has been released. When a huge weight has been lifted off your shoulders. You see, we recently hit the 4-year anniversary of Metroid Prime 4 restarting development. I made a whole video about the occasion because, of course I did. Because I have a lot of feelings regarding this game. Waiting so many years and getting the announcement, just against all odds. Never thought it would happen. And then waiting like a year and a half for updates and then getting the soul-crushing news that it was restarting. And like, when a company announces a game, usually it's been cooking for a while. You know, like usually. You only gotta wait a few years at most, in most cases. But starting from scratch, knowing that we were at the very beginning of development again, it was tough. And as I explained, I am a fellow of the anxious persuasion. So after 4 more years of waiting without hearing anything about the game, it's been even tougher. It's been a long, drawn-out, nerve-wracking, just emotionally exhausting process. Every single Nintendo Direct that comes along, I am glued to my screen, waiting for even a scrap of info, a screenshot, an updated logo, anything. It's this thing that's always hanging over me. But now, I'm happy to say that I am free. That emotional burden has been lifted. The air is free and clear. But why, you ask? Well, it's because shortly after the release of Metroid Prime Remastered, I realized something. Or more accurately, I came up with a theory. It was a theory because, of course, I can't know what's going on for sure. However, I am indeed pretty darn sure about this. This is not a unique theory. This is, in fact, a theory that comes up sometimes seriously, sometimes half-jokingly, whenever a game is delayed for a very long time. But even though it's not unique, sometimes even an obvious theory doesn't really mean anything to you until you feel it, you know? Like until you have real reason to believe in it. Does that make sense? Well, this theory hit me, and when it did, suddenly, everything made sense. This is what I now believe. Metroid Prime 4 will not release on Switch. It will release on the Switch's successor. See? Not a novel concept by any means. Plenty of people have posited such an outcome, but I only just started really feeling it. Here's the thing. I believe that the next Nintendo system will release in 2024. No, I'm not ready to back that up right now in this video. Trust me, there's a video coming. You better believe there is. But for now, just know that that's how I feel. And actually, even if the next system doesn't release until 2025, this theory still stands. I am basically sure that Metroid Prime 4 will skip Switch and launch on the next system. No, I do not have proof. All I have is what I perceive as evidence. No, not even really evidence. It's more like seeing a picture. It's a lot of little details that come together to paint a picture. Sometimes a game will go through years of preliminary work before active development fully begins. A small team spitballing ideas, messing with prototypes, just trying to get a feel for what the project should be. I'm reasonably certain that that's what happened with Pikmin 4. For whatever reason, it just took them a long time to land on the right angle for the game. Maybe Miyamoto just couldn't stop turning over the tea table or whatever, or he just really wanted to make sure it had that one perfect hook. I don't know. But I don't think it's been in active development this whole time. Now, we can't know for sure, but it's hard for me to imagine that Metroid Prime 4 has not been in active development. If you announce the game, you've got a good idea of how it's gonna go. They did have to restart. Maybe at that point they lost their idea and they had to take some time to regain it. Maybe. We really don't know how much they had to scrap. But to me, it feels safe to guess that with the game officially announced and on the slate, Retro has probably been working hard to pull it all together. Maybe it hasn't been 4 straight perfect years of full active development, but it's gotta be fairly close to it. Like, this game is on the slate at every investors meeting, you know? It is now a high priority game. And while games do take a lot of time to make, 4 years is still a very long time. Even in the AAA space, that's enough to make most games, especially if they're built upon a pre-existing framework, as it's also probably decently safe to assume Metroid Prime 4 is. Heck, even working from scratch, 4 years is ages. At least long enough to feed a starving audience some small morsels of information, right? A piece of concept art or two, some microscopic mechanical detail informing us very vaguely of what we might expect to see in the game. Surely that audience, that patient audience deserves it after all this time. Nintendo knows how long we've been waiting. Well, what's one good potential reason they might not want us to have even a small morsel yet? This puppy's not on the Switch. This puppy's gonna be on a whole new system. There's nothing more secret than a game that's launching on a system that itself hasn't been announced yet, right? This game basically needs a re-announcement, and until that time comes, they might not want to say a thing. And they most certainly can't show us any screenshots or gameplay or anything. That would be revealing way too much. Oh, that's not all of it though. Like I said, it was Metroid Prime Remastered that really got me thinking about this. You know why? It's precisely because of how casually Nintendo dropped it, how nonchalantly they developed it. They made it happen, and rumors suggest that they even sat on it for a while, and then they released it for $40 without making a big fuss. And despite how casually the game released, it looks amazing. Just by taking a GameCube game and redoing its assets, they've created what just might be the single best looking game on Switch. And this wasn't even made using the full force of Retro Studios. This was like probably some of the team plus some outside help. A pretty good amount of outside help by the sound of it. Lots of the work was outsourced. Outsourced work, and this is the result. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If Metroid Prime 4 looked exactly as good as Metroid Prime Remastered, I'd be happy. But the original Prime didn't actually take that long to make. The devs did have to crunch on it, which is very bad, but even if they had slowed down, you're still looking at a pretty good turnaround. All of its sequels came out really quick too, just a few years between each one. So the games didn't really take that long to make, and then now Nintendo is able to take one of those games and get it looking this good so casually, using mostly outside work. Shouldn't 4 years be plenty for Metroid Prime 4 to be in a state where we can at least see some part of it? Oh, not if there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than development of a simple Switch game. Remember a few years ago, closer to Prime 4's restart time? Remember what kept popping up in those Nintendo news roundups I need to get back to doing? Retro Studios kept hiring new people, but not just any new people. For a time, they were specifically onboarding people with lots of experience working on AAA games for other studios. People who worked on IPs like God of War, Tomb Raider, huge, gorgeous games with incredible visuals. And I ask you now, why would you need those people to work on Prime 4 if you can so casually employ smaller teams who then put out a remaster that somehow looks better than 99.9% of the games on Switch? That's right, because they're working on something bigger than a Switch game. Something way more visually grand and complex than a Switch game. Something more in line with, a PS4 and Xbox One game, perhaps? Something that can only be played on whatever Nintendo system comes next. So that is why I think Prime 4 will launch on the next Nintendo system. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. And you might think that I would be disappointed by this revelation, since it means that we probably won't hear anything about the game for quite a bit longer. But here is why I am not disappointed. I am actually quite happy. One, the idea of a Metroid Prime game created by AAA industry veterans with next-gen graphics. Well, that's something I'm much happier to wait for. Oh, sorry, my mouth is watering. Two, like I said, I think the next Switch is coming next year. And if I'm right, then we won't have to wait too much longer. If it comes at the end of the year, then yeah, that's still a bit. Might still be like a year before the reveal. It's a good amount. But again, not too long to wait if it ends up being amazing. Three, if my theory is correct, then there is a fine chance Metroid Prime 4 could be a launch title for the next system. And a big AAA Metroid game being one of the only games to play at the launch of the follow-up to one of Nintendo's most successful systems ever is like the actual, literal, single best thing that could ever happen to Metroid. As we keep saying, Metroid needs all the help it can get, and launching on the next Switch would be an incredible opportunity. And four, it's in the air. It's the release of tension. I still have to wait, but I don't have to anticipate it anymore. I don't have to hold my breath for 40 minutes each time Nintendo has a Direct. It's comforting to believe in this theory because it means I can finally just rest and let the game come when it comes. Which, yes, has always been an option, but I'm sorry, my brain doesn't always work like that. So there you have it. That's what I think is going on with Metroid Prime 4. That's why I think we haven't seen anything despite waiting for so long. And the great thing about this theory, this June, if we end up getting a trailer and a release date and I'm proven wrong, then there you go. Game's coming soon. What luck? It's win-win. That's why it's always worth predicting delays. The game is delayed. Prediction correct. I win. Game isn't delayed. I get to play it sooner. I win. I've broken the system. Ha!